Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show, and it's the return of your live press conference reaction. Thank you for joining me now. I hope you are all doing fantastically well. We have just heard from Jesse Marsch. I've got away from university early, so I thought I would react, of course, to the news that Jesse has just brought us. And there's some pretty big news in that press conference, of course, that potentially, or more or less said 100%, that Patrick Bamford will start against Crystal Palace, which for me is massive news. It's huge news. It changes my whole opinion when I look at this game as a prospective, fixture, and one that I believe Leeds United can get something out of if Patrick Bamford starts. We've got loads to get through and loads to discuss just based on Jesse's press conference comments. So let's get into it, people.
I don't think I do it.
Arsenal started like house on fire. Signing number 2 for this new era. It's Judgment Day, people. Yeah! What did your boy tell you? It was never in doubt. Never in doubt. Don't believe in any luck, I believe I'm self-made, yeah. Yes, folks, as it says on there, keep it locked at the Just Joe Football Show. If you haven't already, please do like the video. We have seen a massive dip in them YouTube algorithms after the passing of the Queen and no football. It's took a bit of a nosedive. I need you to continue to help and support this channel. Please do smash a like, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in, and of course, hit that notification bell. I'll be live not only now, I'll be live tonight with the Premier League preview, maybe some FIFA content. Then Saturday, we've got your preview for the Crystal Palace game. And on Sunday, it's wall-to-wall football. There's Leeds Palace, there's Arsenal, Liverpool, there's Man United, Everton. And you'll also have your Leeds versus Crystal Palace post-match thrown in there as well. It's non-stop football on the Just Joe Football Show. Now, listen, we have just heard from Jesse Marsch in his press conference. Many questions were posed. The big one for me, though, and we'll jump ahead because I do like to go through it chronologically, if you like. But he was asked about Patrick Bamford. Pretty in-depth on Patrick Bamford. Will he play? And look, he's basically come out and said that he's fit, he's sharper, and he should be good to go from the start, which is absolutely huge news. You know from watching the midweek fix and just giving my general opinions going into this game that I was a little bit concerned. I was, potentially worried about this as a fixture and also looking ahead thinking, where are Leeds United going to get their next win from? I did earmark Villa at home as a potential one that we could win. Crystal Palace is a very, very difficult place to go. Do not let their current league position lull you into a false sense of security. They have played Arsenal, they have played Chelsea, they have played Liverpool, they have played City, they have played Newcastle. They have played a number of teams that are in a good run and form or are elite teams in this division. The other teams, if you think, considering I think they had 2 games called off as well, so they've not played as many games as us either. So don't let that league position lull you into a false sense of security. They lost in the last minutes to Chelsea last week from a Conor Gallagher strike, of course, as well. They're a very, very good side. So I was nervous going into this. We will discuss more specifically around Palace tomorrow in the actual preview. But one thing that straight away does boost my confidence is, of course, the fact that Patrick Bamford should be due to start this game. It's absolutely massive for Leeds United that he starts this time. Yes, Rodrigo's in hot form. Rodrigo's doing really, really well. But he's not the profile of striker that Leeds United need to lead the line. Not for me personally. I've said a number of times we need a striker. Willian Yonto's not it. Joffrey Gelhart's not it. Sam Greenwood, Sonny Perkins, they're not it. We need someone the similar profile to Patrick Bamford who can lead the line, bring others into play, and also score himself. His movement's exceptional. Patrick Bamford's movement is exceptional. Big up to everyone in the chat. If you haven't already, please do like the video. So let's start with the press conference and go through that. So he was asked by Sky Sports, 2 games in 37 days. How do you keep the intensity up, And it is difficult to replicate the match sharpness that you need going into any game. We've seen that a little bit. There was a little bit of ring rustiness. And Jesse said, look, first half we were good, but we did look a little bit rusty and hesitant at times, hesitant to try the things we might normally try. I looked at Rasmus Christensen's game, for example. I thought he had a good game by his standards so far this season, but we did miss him marauding forward. We did miss. If Luke Ayling starts that game, I believe we score in the first half. There was a number of occasions where that happened. Maybe we put that down to ring rustness, being a little bit hesitant. Hopefully that changes now because the football's coming thick and fast. He did say, though, the team went down a man and we did really, really well. We could have won the game right at the end from a late chance for Matthias Klick. And he did give special praise to Matthias Klick, just in terms of him not being used from the start. However, whenever he comes onto the pitch, Matthias Klick is stand out. He has done really, really well in that respect, especially when you were considering that he could have left Leeds United. There was a number of fans that don't rate him, and I never understand it because, you know, I'm a big fan of Matthias's. And he did, you know, single him out for praise. He did say the spirit and mentality of this group is always very, very strong. He was asked, what have you done during the downtime? Obviously, 2 games in 37 days. We had almost a month off. And he said, you know, we used it to get a lot of players healthy. And we are almost at full strength. I think the only issues we have, of course, is Stuart Dallas from his leg break. He's going to be out for at least another month. I think Gray, there's still an issue with Gray as well. Forshaw, he's out with a hernia, and Hjelde has had an appendectomy. I don't know what one of them is. I can't lie to you. I'm going to Google it now. What is it? Oh, it's appendicitis. Appendicitis there. So he's had them issues as well. So Forshaw, Hjelde, Dallas, are they really first teamers at the minute? No, they're not. No, they're not. Will they be missed? Well, if we did have an injury to Rocker or Tyler Adams, Forshaw, you could argue, will be missed. I think he's the most like them in terms of profile. I wouldn't want Klick to play in a deeper role. Don't think it works under Bielsa. I don't think it would work under Jesse. He'd probably more turn to someone like Sam Greenwood. But hopefully the rest of the team stays fit and healthy. Now, obviously, he said during the downtime, we've used it to get a lot of the players healthy. And my question straight away was, what about Patrick Bamford? Because that guy just can't catch a break. But we found out later on, and how I started this, is that he should be fit to go, which is great. He said we also used it so the players are clear on tactics, so the team know what is expected of them. I wish it was better, me personally, because I'm not liking what I'm seeing at the minute. That's just my opinion. It's quite interesting. Later on, Graham Smith started to ask him about style. So it made me think I'm not on my own here. The fact that a journalist is asking about style and attractive football shows that it's not just me, and there are others out there that are also questioning the style when we're losing games or not winning them. Is it nice to watch? My answer is no. You may have a difference of opinion. And he did say as well previously when he's managed teams, the likes of Salzburg, the likes of Leipzig, he's had the Champions League or Europa League to contend with, but now he gets a full week. He gets a full week at Leeds United because we're not in European competitions. So therefore, he gets a full week to work on things. He was then pushed and said, look, you had a great start to the season. However, that's dropped off. And it has. Since Chelsea, we haven't won a game. We've played 4 times since Chelsea and not won a game. Let me just remind ourselves of them results because, you know, my memory is not the best. So if I just have a look at the results since that Chelsea game, where we won 3-0 at Ellen Road, and it was amazing. We drew 2-2 with Southampton, which we should have won. Oh, sorry, that was before. I'm reading it wrong. Yes, we beat Barnsley, but let's just focus on the league. So we beat Chelsea 3-0. Since then, we went to Brighton and lost 1-0. We drew with Everton 1-0. We got beat by Brentford 5-2, and then we drew with Villa. It's not been a great run of form. And I do believe where we are in the table in terms of our mid-tableness, because that's where I think we'll end, maybe lower mid-table looking at it right now, but we will find we will go on pretty barren runs. But it is quick or we do need a quick turnaround because we want to be looking up the table as opposed to looking over our shoulder. And he was asked that question by the guy at Sky. I don't think it was Tim Thornton, who it normally is. It was a different voice I heard. I was on my dog walk while I was listening to it, but it definitely wasn't Tim Thornton. But he said, look, you had a great start to the season. However, that's dropped off. How important is it that you pick up 3 points and start to look up the table as opposed to down it? And I think we as a fan base know we need to start winning because we've got Arsenal up next. And you could argue that that's a write-off. Mark Ride makes a comment, Barron runs against teams we should be beating at home. I agree with you in that as well. What I will say just on Everton, they have turned a corner and they have the best defence in the Premier League currently. Better than City, better than Spurs, better than Arsenal. Everton are very decent at the minute, okay? So on face of it, is it a good point? Maybe, but it was at home. We probably should be winning. We definitely should be beating Villa at home. Yes, they have a good squad, but in terms of form, not great. Not great at all. So he said, look, the teams are all bunched together. When you look at the mid-table teams, Jesse said it himself. He mentioned them mid-table teams. And when I think about the games that we've played, I look at Everton, I would say they're mid-table. Just based, I know we earmarked them for relegation. That's changed now. I think their recruitment's been exceptional. Tarkowski, Cody, Adrissagana Gay, Anana in midfield. They look really resolute and really, really hard to break down. I would put them in that bracket. I would put Villa in that bracket. I would put Palace in that bracket. That's the sort of teams I believe are currently where we are in the table. And it's quite interesting that Jesse said that we're all bunched together when you start to look at the mid-table teams. Therefore, it's really competitive. And we know that, right? You have loads of mini leagues within the Premier League. But I thought it was quite interesting that Jesse did see us as a mid-table team. He did say we will be ready for Palace and we know they have a fantastic team. And I have a lot of respect for Patrick Vieira. Them two have got a little bit of history that goes back to the New York Red Bulls, New York City days. He was then asked who from Palace worries you the most. And he said Wilfried Zaha. He said he's incredible. He's great in transition, can score with both feet. But we need to be wary not to pay too much attention to Wilfried Zaha on his own, because he then went on to mention Eze, Elise, AU, Edouard, Mateta. They do have very, very good attacking players, the Palace. I think we all know that. Even defensively, look, Joachim Andersen, fingers crossed he's out, but for me, he's one of the best centre-backs outside of the top six. I think him and Mark Guehi as a defensive partnership are probably the best outside of the top six, in my opinion. Klein may be out as well. That'd be huge for us. But what's clear for me, Palace have a very good defence and are even better going forward. So we need to be wary of them. He said they've all got great attacking players and we need to be wary that we don't give the ball away and allow them to break with fast transitions, because that's what they will do. They will look to get in behind. I remember that pre-season game and I remember doing a video after that saying I was worried. You can go back and watch that, check the receipts. When I seen us go up against Palace, I was like, yo, this isn't good. Because they didn't even have a full strength in pre-season. And admittedly, it is only pre-season, but I am worried about this game. But as I said earlier, it all flips. It all flips if Patrick Bamford leads the line for me, because he can hold it up and bring others into play. And if he hasn't got Joachim Andersen there, we know Joachim Andersen's a great centre-back. All you have to do is look at that compilation that he got put together for when he dealt with Darwin Núñez. He frustrated Darwin Núñez that much that Darwin Núñez stuck the headbutt on him and got himself suspended for 3 days. He's that good. Yeah? So hopefully he doesn't play, because I think he can cope with Patrick. You know what I mean? But we do need him to start, for sure. So he spoke about Zaha being number one. I think we could all agree that. As I was walking on the dog walk, I thought, do you know what? Zaha, all he ever seems to do against Leeds is mourn, bitch. He's very good, but we seem to give him a bit of a torrid time. And actually, the journalist said, do you know that Zaha doesn't have a great record against Leeds? He's scored 0 goals in 9 matches. At which point, Jesse said, don't say that. So Jesse clearly believes in jinx. You know me. I don't. Clip it up. Zaha will draw a blank as well at the weekend. I'm not saying Palace won't win, but he's not going to be the man to score the goals. But one thing's for sure, we do need to be wary of them in fast transitions. And that's what Jesse mentioned as well. He was then asked about Palace. Said, look, they've got 1 win at home all season. Do you see Leeds being able to capitalise on that? But then Jesse did what I've been saying and said, the opponents they have played have all been like top 4. And they've played really well in them games. We just have to look at Crystal Palace results, right? And I'll read them to you because we'll go more in depth in our preview tomorrow. But Crystal Palace this season started with a 1-1 draw at home against Brentford. Then were beaten 4-2 by City. If you remember rightly, I think they went 2-0 up in that game against City. They beat Villa 3-1. They drew with Liverpool 1-1. They lost to Arsenal. Everybody's losing to Arsenal right now. They had 2 games postponed, and then they drew with Newcastle at St James's Park and only lost in the last minute to Chelsea. They've had a very, very difficult run. When you compare it with ours, for example, when we've had Southampton, we've had Wolves, we've had Villa, we've had Everton. I dare say, had we have had City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, I know we beat Chelsea, but we'd be in a similar sort of scenario, I think. So I think it's wrong to look at their table and say, oh, they're in 17th, they're rubbish, because they're not. And it's good that Jesse's coming out and saying that as well. He did say, look, somehow last year we got away with a 0-0 draw, but we have to be much better this time around. Tactically, we have to be better. And hopefully we are. Hopefully we see an improvement from what we've seen in pre-season as well. Because I was happy with pre-season up until that point. And people said I was being dramatic after that Palace game. But it genuinely did put the shits up me. I looked at that Palace game and thought, this isn't good, man. They're playing with like kids as well at this point. And they just cut us open like a knife through butter. And we need to ensure that that doesn't happen at the weekend. He was asked about Luis Sinisterra, who is going to replace him. He mentioned that Crysencio Somerville is in the best form he has seen him since he has been at the club. Okay? He is a factor in this team at the weekend, whether he'll start or from the bench. You know my thoughts on Somerville. I'm yet to be convinced. Jan Poveda 2.0. Just my thoughts. I don't know if he can make that step up. I hope I'm wrong. But whenever I've seen him in the first team, off the bench, or starting, or in the cups, I've not been impressed. That's just my own personal opinion. I think he will do well. I think he'll play in Europe. Maybe Portugal, maybe Amsterdam, maybe Holland. I'm not too sure if he's a Premier League player. I may be wrong, and that's fine. You know, football's about opinions, and I hope I am wrong. But I wouldn't be infused if I saw Somerville starting against Palace. Just my opinion. I understand the bench option. But listen, if Jesse says he's in the best form of his life since he's been at the club, then start him and let's see. Let's see. He did say he wants Willie and Yonto to get going as well, and he would like to see both Patrick and Rodrigo healthy at the same time together on the pitch. Perfect scenario for me would be Patrick Bamford, Rodrigo behind, Harrison on the left, and Aronson on the right. Of course, no Cini involved, at which point, based on current form, I would drop Harrison. I would play Cini from the left and Aronson from the right. But on the weekend, at 1 o'clock on Sunday, I want to see Bamford, Rodrigo, Aronson, Harrison. That would be it for me. And then the back line sorts itself out. Yeah? I would like to see Willie get involved. I don't know if I'd like to see Somerville, if I'm being totally honest. It is what it is. But if he says he's in the best form, then use him. He also said Joffrey responded with a fantastic game against Tranmere. And I like that. I believe, although I didn't agree with the comments at the time, but it's all about man management, right? And by Jesse coming out and saying in the post-match press conference, no, Joffrey was fit. He just wasn't good enough to be in the squad. And therefore, he's behind Willie and Yonto. What that's done is made sure that Joffrey's gone, right, I'm going to show you. And sometimes players need that, you know? You can't always be kid gloves, cuddling them, they're there, can you? You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to throw the gauntlet down. And it's clear he's done that, and then Joffrey's shown up. And like Justin says in the comment, was that just to kick up the arse? I think it was, and I think it's worked. You know what I mean? So fair play to Jesse for that, because sometimes you need that, right? That's a good quality of management, knowing when and if to say certain things. But one thing he did say is, look, we have so many decisions to make. This is a good thing. I wouldn't like to be in his position. I know what my first 11 would be, but I wouldn't like to be in his position, because you could argue this is the first time really at Leeds United since we've been in the Premier League that we have options in a number of positions. You know, he said, when you look at the striking option, we had the same issues when we were discussing Cooper and Llorente, when we were discussing Luke Ayling and Rasmus. It is good that we have these scenarios. Yeah. And I think we all can agree that we would rather Cooper over Llorente. I know some would rather Strauch and put someone else at left back, and I understand that, but for me, Captain Cooper has to start. We have strength in depth, but is it good enough depth? Justin asked. I would say it is for us to finish mid-table in the league. That's just my opinion. He did say we have a great group that challenge each other on the training pitch. Also, it's great to see from the bench, when they are used, they're not coming on with their dummies spat out, they're giving it a go. And we've seen that from Mateus Click. And he said when he is used, he has played fantastic, and that's good. He was asked about Junior Firpo. Look, I'll come out and say it now with chest, and I can't believe I'm saying it. I would like Junior to start. The reason I say that is because we need a proper fullback. We need a proper fullback that when we get into them attacking areas can whip a ball and can beat the man. But then again, defensively, he's suspect. And against Crystal Palace, do we want him leaving massive gaps in behind for an Elise, for an Eze, for all these players to run into? Probably not. So actually, for this game, maybe Strout. But I understand when we play Strout, we miss something. We miss something from that left-hand side. But Junior's not going to start anyway, because Jesse said we are still trying to get Junior fully fit. So he's not quite there yet, which again just annoys me because we should have signed a fecking left-back. That still annoys me that we didn't do it. But he did say Pascal's been one of our best players. Although I think personally he's limited in that position, I do agree that he has been one of our best players. You know, Adam Pope asked him, look, Palace have had many issues with defenders. Is this a real big chance for you to go and get a result? And I think it is. If Joachim Andersen's not playing, if Nathaniel Klein's not playing, it's a big opportunity for Leeds United because Joe Ward is not right back, and at centre-back, Tompkins is nowhere close to Joachim Andersen. Not a chance. They're still good. And Jesse made this point. He said, look, I've found in the Premier League, the players underneath the first team, the drop-off isn't that big. Look, Mukhtar says Andersen is back. He's a Palace fan. I know Mukhtar watches, so thank you for that. I love it when opposing fans of other channels come and watch mine. And he says Andersen's back. And I did see something on Twitter as well where it said Palace may welcome back Joachim Andersen to their defence, which if he is back, I'm gutted about because he's a great player. He's a great player. And as I've said on a number of occasions, for me, him and Guehi are probably the best centre-back partnership outside of the top six. There, I've said it. I don't think it's that bold of a claim. Someone else remind me in the comments if they agree, disagree. Is there anyone else that you would say rival them to? I just look at Joachim Andersen's job that he did on Darwin Núñez, and listen, the jury's still out on Darwin. I understand that completely. But he basically riled him that much that it resulted in Darwin Núñez headbutting him. And if you watch the compilation, it is old school, grade A, top class defending. He just tortures him. He gives him little pushes. He does this, he does that. And I think it's great centre-back play against a player like that. And look, we know that Patrick isn't going to resort to them type of tactics, but he will look at Patrick and think, listen, I'm going to bounce you about here. I'm not concerned about you. You know what I mean? So hopefully he isn't back, but if he is, it's a big, big plus to Crystal Palace. I think we would all agree on that. Palace fans definitely would as well. Now, he was asked about the comments on the time wasting. Had you had a chat with the PJMLO or whatever it's called? And he said, yeah, look, we did have a chat with the league about time wasting. It seems that everyone is aligned, but we will have to see. And then he did say, look, in our next home game, we're not going to need to worry about it because Arsenal aren't going to time waste. And they're not, are they? They're going to come and play ball, which actually might play into Leeds United's hands, but we'll have to wait and see. He was asked about Cine sending off. Do you need to educate him? And he look, we used it to show the team how to be more intelligent and savvy in them situations. You just compare us. He did say, look, we have the second youngest squad in the Prem, I think the first being Arsenal. He says we have to be patient with this group because of that fact. They're still learning. They're still inexperienced. If you compare that with how Villa did it, how Wolves do it, you can see that they have the extra little bit of sauce when it comes to them dark arts. It's dark arts of football. The likes of John McGinn, Tyrone Mings, they're schooled in this. Them Wolves players, I swear they do training sessions on it. Ours are very young, and under Bielsa, they were never asked to do it. This was not anything Bielsa would have looked at. It was beneath him. Do you know what I mean? Whether you agree or disagree, I think sometimes even me who's a Bielsa stan would look at him and say, just have a go at the ref. Just tell the players to do this. I mean, Bielsa gave a goal away, for God's sake. Jesse's never doing that. But I like that they do look at these things. And sometimes you have to, if you can't beat them, join them, right? And like the likes of Villa, the likes of Wolves, they're perfect at these time-wasting tactics, drawing fouls, getting in the ref's ear to ensure that they don't get any yellows, etc., etc. We've seen it, man. We need to get better at it. So he's used this as an opportunity to tell them, yeah? We then get onto the Patrick Bamford stuff. He said, is this the perfect time to start Patrick based on the fact he didn't have a great time at Palace? He said, I know about that. He's fitter, he's sharper, and should be good from the start. And that is what we want to hear. Now, Graham Smith said, how much of a matter of personal pride is it that your team play attractive football? I found it quite interesting that Graham started to ask these questions, because for me, it's like, all right, okay, it's definitely out there in the ether that the football we are playing when we are not doing well is not great. And he said, look, I don't know. That was his answer. I don't know. I'm focused on them being effective on the way we want to play. And if we do that, it can be attractive and we can score goals. But he also put a little flip side on that and said, in the meantime, we need to be stable. And maybe that involves going to a back five and making sure you get a point at home against Aston Villa, which is a good way to go when you want to stay in the division. I understand it. It's just not aesthetically pleasing. But would I rather have that than when Bielsa, when we were 10 men against Nottingham Forest, put another attacker on and we end up losing the game in the first season in the Championship, if you remember that. I think we ended up losing like 4-2. We could have defended that. But we chose not to and went all out. It was fun, but did it get us any points? No. Graham Smith then pushed him a little bit further and said, is it important to the players to play attractive football for the fans? And he says, I believe players find it enjoyable when they have a plan and that plan can be effective on the pitch. I still question sometimes what that plan is. When it's not going well, I'm like, right, what are we doing here? Other than just aimlessly kicking the ball into areas. Not wanting to get on the ball and beat a man and play little passes here and there. You know, I know they do the rondos where they're in little triangles and they knock it about, but sometimes I don't even see that. I just see us kicking it into areas. I don't enjoy it, you know, I don't. That's just I think I was spoiled because before Bielsa, I didn't give a shit. I genuinely didn't care. I'd sat through Evans, I'd sat through Warnock, I'd sat through Heckingbottom, I'd sat through McDermott, all these managers. But then when Bielsa came, he sort of ruined football for me in a sense. Because now I look at it from a totally different perspective. Yeah, I think maybe it's an age thing as well. That's an age thing as well. But yeah. He was then asked about Robin Koch. What do you make to him not getting in the German squad? He said, look, we're really happy with Robin and I haven't spoken to Hansi Flick about it, but I think he's playing the best football of his career. And I'd certainly agree that his time at Leeds United hasn't been the best, but he's definitely improving. And he did say he's becoming more of a leader, which is what we need. Because I do think Pascal and Robin as a pair, it doesn't really fill me with leadership quality. That's why we need Cooper in there. Llorente is even a little bit of a leader. As much as him being a tit and not very good, he's still a leader. Maybe whines, moans, but he's still authoritarian. Whereas I don't think Koch and Strauch are little wallflowers, perhaps. Great players, but I don't see them banging the chest. Sometimes you need that. He was asked about Rasmus, up and down this season, which we can all agree it's not been a great season so far for him. But he says he improved in the last game. Are you seeing his confidence grow now? He said, when he's on the pitch, we defend really well. I think, you know, people that come at me for liking Ayling say he can't defend, leaves us too open. I think Rasmus is more defensively sound, but what I want to see from Rasmus is him being more aggressive, going forward, getting into dangerous areas. Yeah, I agree, Ben. It's kick and hope, isn't it? Kick and rush. And that's what it is, really. That's what it is. That's what it translates as. Counter press. We don't want the ball. We give them the ball. If we win it, we try and score quickly. Just doesn't make for a good, attractive game to watch. I don't think, personally. But he did say we need to get Rasmus more forward. Yeah, we want him to be aggressive. Genuinely, if you go back to that first half against Villa, there was, and I mentioned it on the watch along, you can check the receipts. There was a few occasions where the ball came across from Cine, even the Rodrigo one. If Ayling's on that pitch, he's in the box and he's putting that either back across or in the back of the net. Rasmus was still on halfway. And I genuinely feel that game against Wolves and him getting spun by Pedro Neto, has like hammered his confidence no end, because he just seems reluctant to get forward. I would actually advocate at the weekend maybe him not doing that, which sounds like a double-edged sword, and I'm being counter, productive, or I'm contradicting myself. But against someone like Zaha, Elise, Eze, maybe it's better to defend first, especially away from home. And Solomon, when you mentioned that 3-0 against Chelsea, a lot of it was individual errors, and because they came out and played, we pressed them. We pressed them high. They couldn't deal with it. It's what we do, Solomon, and I agree with you, and I think we might get more joy out of Arsenal, but it's what we do when we're given the impetus to go and win a game. Off the ball, when we haven't got it, we can be very, very good. Okay, the press can be beaten with the ball over the top. But when a player wants to try and play out from the back, which Chelsea tended to do, we just hammered them. They couldn't deal with that press. I know Thomas said it wasn't a Leeds' fault or whatever. He was talking shit and now he's not in the job. But there weren't no swift moves really against Chelsea. Not that we used to see under the previous regime. But yeah, it was amazing. Great day. Atmosphere-wise, I was told it's the best it's been for a while, like since forever. A very good day, and it was amazing doing the game. But what do we do when the impetus is on us to go and break a team down? And that's where we might struggle. But yeah, back to Rasmus. Maybe don't go forward. This week, because you've got great players going the other way. Obviously, Jesse's back on the touchline this week as well, and he was said, look, by the reporter, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you don't show enough passion, you get hammered. If you show too much, you're getting a red card. And he said, do you need to toe the line? And he said, look, I enjoyed being in the press box. It was an advantage. I got to see from up on high. I can see all the pitch. I get more tactical clarity. But he said, I need to be on the touchline with the team, to be part of them. I said, I don't plan to get any more reds, but I'm a passionate guy and I'm going to show it. And that's a bit like myself. I'm passionate and I'm not afraid to show it. It is what it is. And that's great that he's not afraid to show it. He's not afraid to show it. And that there is the whole press conference in a nutshell covered. 200 of you watching currently now. So thank you for everyone that's decided to jump in this afternoon. Please do smash a like on the video. And if you want, let's get some questions in now about what we said or anything in particular you've mentioned or I've mentioned about what Jesse's had to say. Solomon says, Cine is our key to the lock. He's played about 1.5 games. Patience, my friends. Yeah, he is that. He is a player that looks like he can beat a man and come inside. I agree with you, mate. I agree with you. And we do need to see more of him, that's for sure. And he's disappointed that he's got himself a red card. He'll be back for the Arsenal game. Hopefully we get something from him. Bandy says, who is the hell is Rasmus? Long live Luke Ayling. Yeah, I like Luke, mate. I like Luke as well. What's the news? The main news being, Gail, from today's press conference for me, it was going along a bit humdrum. I'm like, it's not really great. And then he said Bamford should be fit to start. If Bamford starts, it's huge. If it gets to 1 o'clock on Sunday and Bamford starts, it's huge. Harry says, will Gnonto start? For me, he shouldn't be starting. That wouldn't fill me with confidence for him to be starting in the Premier League away at Selhurst Park. He's not the right profile of striker that we need either. He's a second striker. He's just off the striker. He's maybe coming from out wide. Willy Gnonto is not the boy that we can get balls up to, and he's going to be able to hold off. He's about 5'2". Yeah, he's a big fella, but he's not that guy. It's like Joffrey. He's not that guy. For me, we needed and still do need a profile of striker similar to Patrick Bamford. We definitely need that because it all breaks down. We've seen the improvement when Bamford came on the pitch, even with 10 men. We had someone who we could hit and he could keep hold of the ball and bring others into play. He drew fouls. He got us a free kick. You know what I mean? So for me, we need Bamford up top and we need someone off behind him. Ideally, Rodrigo. And then you have Aronson and Harrison. And when Cine's fit, it's Cine. And I'd probably drop Harrison just based on current form. High press and narrow play is so easy for teams to counter. It's a flawed system. It is very easy to counter. I believe that as well. You can just go long, right, straight over. And I think Palace will do that. I think Palace will look to do that, beat the press, and we're then open, like, yeah, just very, very open. You've just to look at that pre-season game. All I would beg is that we don't have a similar performance as the pre-season game against Palace, because the difference will be is Palace will have a first 11 that will include Zaha, that will include Eze, that can beat a man at will, draw us in and passes for Mateta or whoever else is in there. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what tactics they employ, but I very much go into games now thinking that the opposition, unless they're going to try and impose their game on us, will just look to get it over the top. Michael says Somerville could be a simple replacement for Cini. I'm not big on Somerville. I hope I'm proved wrong. But again, I wouldn't be fully confident if he starts at the weekend. Just my opinion, just my personal preference. Craig says, I think Marsch will go with Bamford, Rodrigo, 10. Yeah, I think so as well. And I think Aronson plays better out wide as well. But I do think we're too critical of Aronson when we don't play well as a unit, because he looks like he doesn't get on the ball. But that's what he's asked to do. Just in them tight areas, it's so hard. You've got to be elite, like level, to be able to, in such a tight area, get on the ball, turn, beat a man. It's just so frantic, so pinball-y. That's why I don't enjoy it. I'm like, sometimes I want to go, just put your foot on the ball. Get it out wide into a bit of space where you can actually do something. When it works, it's fine. When it don't work, it looks terrible. Just my opinion. Perkins on the bench, potentially. There is something in this. This might sound really poor analysis, but I tend to agree that maybe Somerville will be better suited across Europe. Maybe in Holland even, or potentially in Portugal. I'm not sure. I just don't know if he's apt physically enough for the Premier League. I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I want him to do well. I think Leeds United will make money on him, whatever happens. But listen, thank you as always for watching the Just Joe Football Show. I'll be live tonight at around about 8 o'clock with Oscar and Corey for your Premier League preview, so join us for that. I'll also have my preview for the Palace game out tomorrow. And then Sunday is just wall-to-wall watch along. It's mad. And maybe some FIFA content thrown in as well. Watch this space if you fancy jumping on that. But thanks as always for watching. Smash a like on your way out. I hope you've enjoyed this condensed chat on Jesse's presser. I enjoy doing them myself, just giving my opinion on what he's had to say. And I'll see you later on tonight. Thanks as always for watching. And peace out now, people. I don't think I do it. Arsenal started like a house on fire. Signing number 2 for this new era. It's Judgment Day, people. Yeah! What did you boys